get back. There's Scott Coletta, crew chief Ron Barrow. It's getting ugly. David Pace. Well, Connie Coletta's not watching. He's going to show the team what they did wrong. Look, you do it like this. Pace would not have been much of an opponent for Coletta. Coletta knows that. For very good reasons, there's no audio from Connie Coletta.
Many memorable things. I mean, I've been going to Indy since 1962, I believe, was the first year that I raced at Indy. This goes back a long ways. A lot of memorable times, a lot of good events, a lot of good racing.
A lot of that good racing involved Connie Coletta and Shirley Muldowney. Talk about emotions. Talk about a bitter rivalry. There was none better than Shirley and Connie at their best. And that, of course, was in the late 70s and early 80s.
I raced a couple weeks ago and I give her 2 driving lessons, 2 of them, one right after the other.
In his wildest dreams. Connie said a lot of things. It's who goes over the finish line. As far as where I sit, that's what's most important, and it takes more than just a driver to pull that out. It takes a team. And, you know, when there's somebody over in that lane that you really want to dust off, that really has got it coming, you know, you just hope and pray that your guys did their job right, because they're the ones that pull it out for you. And they did their job right.
These two met up in 1982, the Top Fuel final. It was just what you would expect from 2 former teammates on the track and roommates off. This was more than just a car race. Now, Shirley had had a rather trouble-free U.S. Nationals. Connie, on the other hand, had blown up everything in his trailer, and his crew was out scavenging parts just to try to make the final round. Appear he did. This was one the fans in attendance won't soon forget. Connie's pre-race thoughts?
All right, lane choice isn't going to be that big a factor, is it?
I don't think so. The driving is, though.
Oh, yeah. Anytime you and this lady meet, it's a bit of a war.
Yes, it is. It's going to be a hell of a good drag race.
And you take great pride in trying to leave on her.
I wouldn't do that. Ladies before gentlemen, isn't it?
Never let it be said that Connie Coletta let a chance go by to throw a little dart at Shirley Muldowney. But the dart was thrown right back in his face in the race, as Shirley in 1982 took home the title.
It's nice to be able to sit here and talk about winning that race. I consider myself extremely fortunate. You know, and the luck did not enter into winning the race. I still consider myself lucky to have won it. That is the one to win. I guess it's nice to be able to say you've done it.
Getting so close to winning Indy and never winning it, you know, and, I can remember my mom had a bottle of champagne, and she says, "We're going to drink that when you win Indy." And I think she drank it without me. It sounds like it.
Rivalries thrived at Indianapolis Raceway Park, and none were better than those in the Pro Stock category. And it was everybody trying to beat the hometown hero, Bob Glidden.
It is close to home. We don't have to stay in a hotel or motel. But on the other hand, when you race close to home, you have a lot of other deterrences. Everyone in the Indianapolis and Whiteland area thinks I own the racetrack and comes to me to get free tickets.
In 1981, the final pitted Lee Shepard in the Chevrolet against the Ford of Bob Glidden. Bob had won this race in 1973, 74, 78, and 79. But in 1981, Chevrolet prevailed. Glidden fell back early in the race and could not challenge Lee Shepard and the Raren Morrison team.
Well, we just had a little longer staging session than normal, and I went ahead and staged first, and Bob pulled in, and he was a little late, looked like.
Yeah, I think he had a quicker lap start.
Yeah, he usually does.
The rivalry got more intense, if that's even possible, in 1983. Another big staging battle And you thought that was only a product of the 90s? Forget about it. Staging battles have been going on since drag racing began.
And look who wore the big number 1 as Winston champion, Lee Shepherd. Oh, they just sat there. And sat there. Look at the crowd in the background. Nobody moving. Not the cars, not the people. The starter's getting involved here. Buster Couch, he said, come on, guys. Shepherd broke first.
As they headed down the racetrack, the Ford eking out a win. This was the last U.S. Nationals finals for Lee Shepherd before his untimely death in the testing accident just a little bit later. But certainly, Shepherd will be remembered as one of the great U.S. Nationals Pro Stock champions of all time.
You know, a lot of fans, I think, have this image in their head of Warren Johnson as being this cold, calculated, introverted engineer type. I can tell you I've never seen a driver any more excited in my life than WJ was. Indy 84.
Johnson at the wheel of the Oldsmobile Cutlass was against Bob Glidden, the hometown boy. Lost it.
In '84, you know, that was special because that was my first Indy. It was Bob Glidden that I raced there. Beating Bob at any time is special. If you're going to win a race, no matter how important any other race is, you have to win Indy. Otherwise, you really, to win a championship without winning Indy is really almost like a hollow championship.
The battles continued. Warren Johnson and Bob Glidden. The cars updated as we went through the years. It was 1988 when Bob and WJ once again sat on the starting line at Indy in the U.S. Nationals, and that race was decided at the line. WJ redlighted. That was Rusty Glidden in the background giving his impression of a two-legged pogo stick.
Every win's a special win, but this is Indianapolis. This is the Super Bowl of racing. This is the big race for us.
Well, Bob's 9 U.S. Nationals victories make him the winningest driver. Well, right behind, though, is Don Garlits with 8. And we would be remiss in this video if we did not pay tribute to Don Garlits with his own little chapter here. What a man. He is Indy in many ways to a lot of fans.
And of course, Indianapolis Raceway Park has been the scene of some of the greatest triumphs and greatest memories that we have of Don Garlits. Here's a shot long before Indianapolis Raceway Park in the U.S. Nationals. Don Garlits, no face mask, a carbureted blower. In '62, he drove for Connie Coletta.
Oh, the first one was with my gas car. In fact, Don Garlits was driving it, and I think we go back to 1962, I would imagine, and around 180 miles an hour on a gallon of gasoline. That was sort of one of the first significant things I can remember about Indy.
And it was a milestone moment indeed, the first ever 180, and it was Don Garlits driving Connie Coletta's car for that sole purpose, because in the finals up against Jack Crispin, it was Don Garlits at the wheel of one of his fabled Swamp Rats, and it failed him this day as Jack Crispin won the race. This was 1962.
1963, love the shades, lady. Big Daddy again in the final. We touched on this earlier. He was over on the far side up against Bobby Vodnik, the 19-year-old kid, and Big left way too soon.
I know I runner-up there in 1962 and 1963 before I actually won in 1964. And believe it or not, 1964 was almost a runner-up. I was racing Jack Williams, and it was just inches separated the cars. But that was my first win, and it was a big one.
By Indy time 1967, it was a very frustrated Don Garlits. Most of the better cars were running in the 6-second elapsed time zone, not Big Daddy. He wasn't winning, he wasn't qualifying. He said, I'm going to grow this beard until I run in the 6s. He made it to the final in 67 against Californian James Warren.
Dave, as incredible as it may seem, with all the performance accomplishments that Don Garlits has had at the U.S. Nationals and at Indianapolis Raceway Park particularly, the thing that sticks out most in my mind, and I think most of the people who've been around in this sport for some time, is this beard incident. You always hearken back to Don Garlits and the beard shaving incident on the starting line.
This was the final. Garlits and Warren. Garlits not only wins, he runs his first ever 6-second elapsed time. And by now, you know what that meant. And Dave, I got caught flat-footed. I was working for ABC. We went right to the winner's circle where Garlits was supposed to go. From that point where he stopped, I was down there. The winner's circle was over behind a tower you couldn't see on your left. We didn't know he went to the starting line for a Gillette moment.
And look what happened on the starting line. Don Garlits, surrounded by fans, standing up on the front of his truck and shaving off the beard. 1968, final round, maybe a precursor of things to come. Steve Carboni and Don Garlits.
Steve Carboni in the Bob Kreitz car was over in the far lane. We're looking at Garlits here right now, that real spindly car. Carboni with the state-of-the-art car of the time, the full mag body, the whole 9 yards. In fact, that team, Carboni and Bob Kreitz, invented the burnout. They were the first to ever pour bleach down into the tires. It was called the bleach box for a long, long time. But this here, it was experience on Garlits' side. As good as Carboni was, he maybe wasn't quite ready for the master. Big was long gone with no tire smoke. Carboni loses traction. Big Daddy sliding the clutch when not everybody knew how to do that. But then we moved to another Garlits-Carboni matchup. That was in 1971. You remember this?
Steve, this is remembered by me and many others as the longest nitro burn down in history. The look of starter Buster Couch says it best. Get in the staging beams now. They finally did, and Steve Carboni upset Don Garlits on that day in 1971. Just 4 years later, it was a new opponent in the final round for Big Daddy Don Garlits, this time Shirley Muldowney. And it was Shirley's first ever Top Fuel final round appearance at the U.S. Nationals. Back in those days, they still did the dry hop burnouts with the Top Fuel dragsters. The cars were equipped with 2-speed transmissions. The drivers had a lot of work to do as they made their way down the racetrack. Considerably different than the Top Fuel dragsters of the mid-1990s. As everyone at Indianapolis Raceway Park watched on, Shirley hazed the tires off the starting line, fell behind, and Don Garlits defeated Shirley Muldowney in her first ever appearance in a Top Fuel final at the U.S. Nationals. Little did anyone know at that time what that race would start, that rivalry between Don and Shirley.
Shirley, you got to realize the pressure was really on her because here she's got further in drag racing right now than any woman ever has. I mean, you know, runner-up, you got to understand that that's a fantastic thing. This is the U.S. Nationals. Oh man, this was only the U.S. Nationals.
He almost seemed proud of Shirley that day. Well, in 1978, Garlits again in the Top Fuel final up against Rob Bruins in Argane's Markley car from Federal Way, Washington. Bruin was to become an NHRA Top Fuel champion, the only one who ever did it without ever winning a single race.
Again, proving the value of consistency throughout a season-long competition in the Winston Points Chase. The same holds true today as it did back in the 1970s. This was 1978 at Indianapolis Raceway Park as Rob Bruins staged against Don Garlits. In one of the closest races of the year, just a few feet separated the winner from the loser, 5.90, the winning time for Garlits as he won yet again at IRP.
The competition has just gotten fantastic. It's probably the best drag race that I've ever witnessed.
Well, he may have updated that opinion in 1984. After having been missing from the U.S. Nationals for 5 years, Garlits returned big time.
It would be 1984. I had been out of racing for a few years. We established the Museum of Drag Racing, and I wasn't running the circuit. And Art Malone came up here to the museum and wanted to go to Indy, and I didn't know that he meant with a car, but he did. And he bought an engine for us, and we took one of the cars out of the museum. It's one Pratt 26, I think it was, 1981 car. We put the modern engine in it. We went to Indianapolis, Garlits and Malone. And I'll tell you what, everybody had a laugh. Not the fans, but the racers, because they are two old dinosaurs, they said, with a car out of the museum. And we worked our way through the field and won the event against all odds. And we didn't back into it. We were running good. And we went on to win at Pomona, the World Finals. And it actually got me back into the sport. But that race, winning that race at Indy in 1984, two old guys that were actually retired, Any car that was a museum piece just had to do something for you. You know, it made you feel good inside.
McGarlett's went on to win the next 2 years at the U.S. Nationals, and both times his victim in the final round was the youngster from Garlett's home state, Darrell Gwynn. In fact, Dave, remember what he called Gwynn? The Wolf.